welcome to the Earth Feels podcast.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Christine.
Welcome to Earth Feels, the podcast for people feeling overwhelmed by the endlessly gloomy climate news.
Where every week we have soul-based conversations about climate change and explore the idea that climate change may be happening for us as much as it is happening to us.
If you are ready to shift your focus and secure the future for our kids and our grandkids, then this is the podcast for you.
And yes, we do know how to spell.
So, today's question, how can we stop the war on life? And I'm delighted to have Christine back with me today for this, to delve into this conversation.
Yippee!
Yay, how nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, and to shout out to all of our Earth Feels listeners.
Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful how Rose has taken the helm and just run with that?
The training wheels are off is basically is how I look at it. It's like a little wobbly, but whatever. So I wanted to talk about a couple things. How can we stop the war on life? Well, there were two news stories in the last 24 hours. One you may have seen down in Manatee County, Florida. There's toxic wastewater that is leaking from fertilizer plants. That's contained in these holding ponds, and they're concerned that the holding ponds are if the walls give way, there will be a 20-foot wall of toxic wastewater that will affect all the houses nearby. So the homes have been evacuated, but millions of gallons of this wastewater is now being pumped into Tampa Bay. And
into the water,
into the ocean, into the Tampa Bay right there. So they're saying, so a couple things. The crazy thing is these are fertilizer plants. So for every 1 ton, and I've been reading about it the last couple of days because, right, research geek. For every 1 ton of fertilizer that these places produce, 5 tons of toxic waste are the byproduct. What the hell? So they're saying that, it's really not going to be that bad. It's only high in nitrogen and phosphorus and this, that, and the other thing. What about, it's an environmental nightmare. It's an environmental nightmare that they're not going to be able to avoid. There's literally hundreds of millions of gallons of this toxic wastewater sitting there. And they've had a problem with this particular plant for several decades that they've done nothing about until push comes to shove. So that was one story. And then another story was Amazon, our favorite Mr. Bezos, used in 2019, an estimated 465 million pounds of plastic packaging. And so it's estimated, this was a story in today's New York Times. It's estimated that 22 million pounds of Amazon's plastic packaging ends up as trash in the wastewater and marine ecosystems around the world. Just Amazon. And of course, 2020, people were buying even more. And what's going to happen in 2021? So yeah, we're kind of wreaking havoc on life.
And I guess I would say those are egregious examples, but they're not unique.
No.
That is the way that our system, our current consciousness has approached life, basically, that we're here and we are disconnected. We feel like we don't have a connection to the rest of life. So if Tampa Bay is flooded with agricultural waste, or even going back earlier to that, the idea that you can produce agricultural product and create this toxic waste, that there's no understanding that at some point the piper has to be paid. You don't
Mm-hmm.
create toxic garbage. And so how is it that, I mean, we've talked about this before, so we may be beating on the same drum, but here we are, and that's what we're going to do today. This is a vast disconnect, and we've talked about patriarchy before. It truly is the idea that we're here, there's a hierarchy, it's about exploiting, whether it's the earth, the resources, as opposed to, the relationships. The indigenous view is that we have relationships. Well, our Western view is that we're here to exploit the resources, and the trees aren't part of the living family, right? And so that goes along with women being exploited and abused, and indigenous people being exploited and abused. It's this toxic mindset. And here we are, and we're in the middle of it. We're stewing in it, just like everybody else. But we are coming to the point where we will either kill all life one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
or we will change our relationship wholesale. And
Yeah, it seems like, again, we've talked about the gift of COVID in the past year, and that's not to minimize people who have lost a lot. But there is this awareness, this hyper awareness of what we're doing and what we've
I
created.
hope so.
We hope so. We hope so. I don't know if you've seen a little bit. It's part of the same subject, but a little bit. I'll digress, as I usually do. If you've seen Seaspiracy on the
I've heard it
Netflix film,
recommended. I've not seen it.
it's the same thing. It's what the idea that man, and I would say mankind, but pretty much white patriarchal, white heterosexual men, dominion over, and
Mhm.
dominion over the oceans, and overfishing and plastic is part of it, but commercial fishing, what they're doing and the environments that they're destroying, and we're kind of caught in this feedback loop now, that even if we stop today, it still continues. I don't know if you saw yesterday, we hit 421.21 parts per million. It's the highest CO2 we've
Yeah,
ever been at.
yeah.
So you're right, there's all this stuff that's going on, but it's always been going on. I mean, this problem in Florida has been going on for 2 decades, that they just basically said, we'll get it when it's catastrophic, then maybe we'll do something about it. That's where we are. We're at the point where we can't continue down this road. So how do we stop it? How do we stop
So,
it?
yeah. And it's so many people have given up hope. And I guess I want to touch on that as well. And I know I mentioned in the little clip that I did for your collection of women talking about the divine feminine rising in this time. But I think it's so important for us to stay connected to the mystery
Mm-hmm.
that that is life. And we look around and we think it's hopeless, like we're never going to lick this. There's climate change, there's ocean acidification, there's the plastic, that's, and throw up our hands. And I mean, I understand that, because I've been immersed in that world for over a decade. But there is this mystery around life. The fact that we're here at all. Here, I have to show you, I've been reading recently. It's called The Universe Story: From the Primordial Flaring Forth to the Ecozoic Era, a celebration of the unfolding of the cosmos, by Brian Swim and Thomas Berry. I think Brian Swim is a scientist, and Thomas Berry is a theologian, or was. I think he might have passed. But one of the things that struck me in this paragraph that I read yesterday, and they're talking about the Big Bang. And the original body of the universe maintained itself in a delicate balance. If either the rate of spaciation, so how far, past things were moving apart from each other, or the power of gravitation had wavered too far one way or the other, the adventure of the universe would have ceased. Like, there's so much. It was on a razor's edge then too. I guess I would just say I would recommend the book, but also say it was on a razor's edge. The fact that there's life at all is such an amazing mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say to our listeners and to myself and to you, don't give up hope, and don't be overwhelmed. And then know that within this universe, this life that you are given, then what is it that calls you to move in love, to because don't you think that is the key to stopping war on life, is to move forward in love? And I mean, Jesus said it, and I know in my 20s I heard this quote from, have you ever heard of Sri Chinmoy? He's like a religious figure.
I've seen his name. I don't know if I've read the
Yeah.
name.
I remember this quote from him, which is, do not try to change the world. You will fail. Love the world, and it is changed forever. And I remember writing it down. And in my 20s, I'm like, because I'm a, one in the Enneagram, whoever, if anybody knows about that. And in the Chinese elements, I'm a wood, like I'm a doer. That's what I do. What? Like, I love this world. I mean, it's so broken. There's so much wrong with it. There's so much that needs fixing.
But that's interesting. That's interesting because a conversation I was having with someone the other day, we were talking about the influence that you put out, and that someone observing you doing the right thing, which may be picking up plastic or going to the grocery store and refusing to take home plastic, that will enter into their consciousness at a certain level, which it may not affect them at first, but if they see you doing it repeatedly, it does enter into their consciousness. So when you extrapolate that, everything you do creates a certain energy and a certain momentum. So if you are just loving, if you are loving to everyone, no matter who they are, that puts more love out there.
Exactly.
And that love builds on itself, just like we're seeing fear build on itself right now, just like we're seeing hopelessness build on itself right now. So for those of us who consider ourselves to be here for a purpose, for light, that's the hardest part, is maintaining that walking our talk, staying in love when you see the crap that's going on all around you, and you're just like, okay, well, we're still going to get it. People are going to get it. People are going to get it.
And we don't know that, but our calling is to be love. I would say at this time, that is how we stop the war on life. And that doesn't mean that, I mean, you can send love to, the agricultural, people at the head of that agricultural company that's producing toxic waste, but it doesn't mean that you don't do anything. That may be what somebody is called to do in love, is to call to account those people. I'm not sure, that's not my calling, but it probably is somebody's, and it probably is one person's. And I guess because you're talking about the sending the vibration of love out there, I've been doing, because my work is sort of based, well, it isn't sort of, it's based in quantum physics and the idea that quantum physics is teaching us about time, that there really isn't time, and that we can, the past life work that I do has impacts in the present. And it, in fact, when we do a past life regression for somebody who's had a traumatic experience or even an intergenerational experience, it's still present energetically
Mhm.
in them. And so, but what quantum physics really says at our base level, it tells us that we are light. We are light. So when you say we be light, I mean, it's just
Mhm.
remembering our nature. And this whole experience of being human and being in the physical realm is tough, and it's easy to forget that. And I am not saying that I'm
Oh, come on now, Christine. You got it down. No, I think I personally find remembering a very hard thing to do. Something will happen and I will be hit like gobsmacked and I'll be like, oh, I knew that. I knew that, but I've forgotten it. I don't know if that's part of the human experience. I mean, coming here, I believe in past lives. So coming here and starting over again and not remembering the lessons that you learned in your previous lifetimes, and yet you're here for your soul's journey. So you're going to be adding to the collective wisdom, but you don't know what you've already learned. It's like starting college, but you don't remember anything from grades
well,
K
and
through
I would
12.
say that at this time there's so many people doing healing work of different
Mm-hmm.
kinds or another,
Mm-hmm.
and that it does seem like this is the time when we will, more than we have since being humans, I think, start remembering, because this work is happening all over, and it's not just in my healing community. It's this work is happening in different iterations, and people are remembering.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so that, but some people might be going, well, I'm not spiritual at all and that doesn't resonate with me. Well, so then there's the citizens climate lobby approach, which is based actually in Gandhian principles of building bridges to people who oppose you. And it is, they don't use that language of love that much, but it is about going into meetings with people who hold opposing views with you and deliberately choosing to build a bridge and make a connection rather than not. So it doesn't have to be religious.
A spiritual
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Well, two things occur. I mean, Gandhi, I think his one of his most famous quotes is be the change. Be it. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. You can't, I mean, MLK, you can't fight love. You can't fight hatred with more hatred. You have to fight it with love. I mean, and maybe you don't want to use the word fight because that's a whole combative term, but we need the best, not need, the best thing we can do is look at someone who we don't agree with and see, is there a point of agreement? Is there something about them that we do agree with? Certainly, we're all human beings. So start there and commit to finding out something about that person that you disagree with. Find a point of connection so that you can have a conversation, because otherwise it's just we're warring with each other.
Yes.
Humans warring with humans, much less humans warring with the planet.
And feeding into that aggressive kind of fear-based consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
which has been dominant for thousands of years. And that's what we're shifting out of now. And it is fighting tooth and claw. It does not want to be shifted. And so if we can, at whatever level, choose to disconnect from that, not feed it. And like you said, purposely connect with somebody. Even, again, I think I've mentioned The Gentle Art of Blessing by Pierre Pradervan before. It's a book.
Yes.
He also has a website. Even if you can't consciously articulate a connection to somebody, you can still send them a blessing.
Mm.
And that shifts the vibration as well. And it really is about all of these little waves, if we're thinking about vibrations, turning into a big wave. And it's so easy, and our culture makes us feel very disempowered. But I would say that the new consciousness is very empowering, because each of us are a piece of that vibrational light consciousness. And so we do have an impact. We very much, our choices, our small choices, not just our big ones, but our small daily choices do have an impact. And I think we should all take hold of that. And it doesn't, we don't need to like change careers, move to a new place, and unless we want to. It's just we can easily, not easily, okay, take that back. We can we can implement that in our daily lives.
Right. So every action or inaction creates the world that we live in. So again, for me, the easiest way of impacting my world is through my purchasing power. If you're aware, if you look at every product that you buy and say, do I want to buy something that's wrapped in plastic? Do I want to buy something that I know? I mean, there's the Easter here in the United States. There was a big push to buy chocolate that doesn't use child slave labor. I mean, it takes doing a little bit of research, but talk about momentum building. When you stop purchasing dryer sheets, or not dryer sheets, but cleaning clothes detergent that comes in a giant plastic tub. How many of those giant plastic tubs? I mean, I was in Target recently, big day out. I went to Target, and just walking through the aisles of cleaning product, it's all plastic. It's all plastic. And in that plastic, 60% of it's water. I mean, so yes, it takes mindfulness. But again, thinking about what you're doing, thinking about the action that you take. It's just that simple. Just thinking about it and going, well, maybe today I am going to buy it in a plastic jug, but I'm also going to buy this borax, and I'm going to, next time, I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to make this myself. Or a million different examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to be perfect at it, but we need to be moving forward in a way that we are more aware of the consequences of our actions. It's like, as a parent, you look at, you have to teach your kids consequences. It's like all of a sudden we've woken up to a whole generation of a whole planet full of people that don't understand that there's any consequence to anything we do.
Consequences are us. This is where we are this next decade. That's where we are. It really is a pivotal decade. And so, yes, choosing other options other than plastic. I just bought those laundry strips, that are little. Have you?
I've been researching them. I haven't bought them yet because we still have Tide laundry detergent downstairs, which my partner loves, and he buys it in bulk. So we have a couple of those big jugs down there, and I'm like, okay. But I said to him, next time we're doing these strips, but there's several different kinds, and I've been looking to see, like, most of them, like I was at Costco the other day. You can't buy any of that stuff at Costco. You know, it needs to become mass retailers have to pick up on it.
But on the other hand, these days everybody's mail ordering
Right.
everything, and I got mine from a place in Vancouver. I don't remember the name of the strips. True something.
True Earth or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
True
yeah,
Earth.
yeah.
That's what it is,
That was one of the ones I was looking at. Yeah.
and it was shipping was free.
Okay.
So
Okay. So that's and it comes in a cardboard box, I'm assuming.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think all of those kinds of things, little bit by little bit, but the more people who do it, you do it. So you've talked to me about it. I've been thinking about it. So next time I'll do it. I'll talk to someone else about it.
and my daughter talked to me. She's been doing it for
So yeah, so you know.
But I was also going to say, but also the next time you drive past somebody who's got a sign up for a political party that you disagree with, something you can do to raise the vibration is to send that person blessings, send loving thoughts their way. So buy the non-plastic laundry detergent, and on your way home, when you see that Trump sign, send them. And sometime we're going to have to talk about social media, because I really feel like energetically, because that's what I'm doing more of these days, I can really notice when I've tuned into Twitter how that decreases my vibration. Like I can measure it. I can tell when my aura is at 100% and I go on Twitter. Wow. It can really, really lower your vibration.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
So
the last 6 months, because of the presidential stuff, I got on Twitter, but other than that, I find it very toxic. And I know people feel that way about Facebook, and probably maybe not Instagram as much, because Instagram's more pretty pictures. But whenever you get someplace where people are just spewing,
yeah, and it's hard not to get caught up in that. And so if you are on Twitter, really think about before you react.
And yet social media can be, just like television, can be a great medium for spreading hope and light as well.
Awareness.
So check yourself. What's the seed that you want to plant today? What's the message that you want to put
are
out there?
sending ripples out, whichever way you're engaging in vitriol or in, and also supporting people. I know I've seen people are sharing when they have a loved one die of COVID, on Twitter. And so they get lots of loving support. So
yes. And that's, it's lovely just to get 100 people wish you a happy birthday. It's like, especially this year when you didn't even probably get a birthday cake. I didn't get a birthday cake. So because there was nobody there to make one for me. Wine. But yeah, no, I think that's true. I think everything we do, can we use it for positive?
So raise the vibration. This is our opportunity. This is what we came here for.
There's an Iroquois quote that says, in our every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. And I love that. I mean, it's not just about what you're creating for you right now. And I think that's been part of our problem, is that we're focused on the now and immediacy. We don't care if we're creating 5 tons of byproduct waste, because we're going to get that 1 ton of fertilizer by hook or by crook, and we're going to use that.
But you and I wouldn't make that choice.
No, we wouldn't. But you can extrapolate that to other choices that you would make, right? And I think the indigenous philosophy that it's not just our generation that we're affecting, it's our kids' generation and our kids' kids. And if we're lucky enough that humanity survives, it's 7 generations from now.
Well, that is
for human beings, but for ants and worms and trees and, fish in the sea and the whole thing.
All our relations, as my Indigenous
Yeah,
friends.
the two-leggeds and the four-leggeds and the creepy crawlies and the everything. Yeah, I'm
So
getting
that
more and more into Indigenous language because it really tells the truth more.
that's our our conundrum. That's where we are, and we are on a razor's edge. But we're not dead yet. From Monty Python.
All right, so there is some good news. As you know, there's always good news. It's just like we got to talk about the crap, but then we have to, refocus. Last week, there were two representatives here in the United States, Senator Jeff Meckley, he's a Democrat out of Oregon, and Alan Lowenthal, who's a Democrat out of California. And they introduced a bill that's called the Break Free from Plastics Pollution Act,
Wow.
which would essentially require companies to bear the full cost of state and local recycling programs. Because we know that the companies that have said, oh yeah, we're going to recycle, and they put that pretty little triangle on the bottom, and it's basically a lie. And yet they put the impetus on the consumer that, oh, you buy this product, you take care of it. They're not, and they can keep their costs down because they're using plastic. It's cheaper than wood fiber or cheaper than glass or whatever, but they're not bearing the full cost of what they're doing. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I think they're getting big pushback from the plastic industry, surprise, surprise, and the fossil fuel industry, which we know that plastic is their plan B. But nevertheless, it's being introduced. So again, it's an awareness thing. It's like, okay, this is out there. We need to support those legislators that are doing the good work.
That is good news.
Yeah, I was very excited to see that.
And our action tip, I think this whole conversation is people can take out the action tips that sort of resonate with them.
Yeah, I would just sum it up with be mindful. Just think.
And know that your thoughts and your vibration, whether it's anger, and
Isn't that true?
judgment.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone I was having a conversation with the other day, and it was going back to past life stuff. It was going back to family of origin stuff, and then farther back than that. They were talking about outrage, and we all feel outraged as to what's happening, but outrage is really born of anger and hopelessness and helplessness. And can we switch that energy to I'm going to commit to making a difference on this one issue?
Right, because anger is an important emotion. When we get stuck in it, then it's not helpful. But it's there to tell us something. It's there that something isn't right, and it's calling us to take action.
To take action, yeah, to spur us into action.
Okay, well, that's our action tip then.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then for a sanity tip, I'd say count all the things that you're doing right. When you feel like you're you're feeling that despair, look around you and see the things that you're doing right. Count those. Look at your partner, your neighbor, your mother, your dad, your kid, and see the things that they are doing right, and hold on to that, because again, vibrationally, you're sending the message that this is what you want more of.
Yeah. All right.
Well, lovely to see you again.
Yes.
and chat with you. I miss our conversations.
Well, next time we chat, we'll talk about the what Earth Feels plan is. Unless I've missed it, have you sort of said that I'm backing away and you're?
Yeah, I did mention that you were backing away until May, and then you were going to reevaluate. I didn't mention that the last time we talked, it seems like you're really comfortable where you are right now, and I've got some stuff up my sleeve for things going forward, and so yeah, we're still continuing. Hopefully, we still continue to have conversations now and again, but.
Well, thank you, Rose, and thank everybody for listening.
Bye-bye. Catch you next time.
That's this week's Friday episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me.